The Pittsburgh Steelers probably have a number of options that they're looking at inside linebacker this offseason. But immediately, with no question, Bobby Wagner jumps to the top of that list. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbine. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/all Steelers talk or anywhere you get your podcasts. And today, well, I'm going to make it very known that I am on board the Bobby Wagner train. This is 2 seasons in a row. The only difference is last year, the Steelers were in cap hell where they were just trying to figure everything out. And at the same time, they had to sign Minkah Fitzpatrick and sign Chris Boswell and Deontay Johnson. This offseason, there's nobody. There's Alex Highsmith, whose contract doesn't even start for a whole year. The Steelers have the money, they have the resources, they have the need. Bobby Wagner is an immediate option and the best option for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And let me explain why. We'll start with productivity. Many people are going to bring up the fact that this is year 12 for Bobby Wagner. He's 33 years old. He'll be 34 by the start of the season. How much longer can this guy do it? Well, over the course of his career, in 11 seasons, he has played 168 games. The lowest amount of games he's ever played in a year, 11. The last time he didn't play a full season, 2018, where he only missed 1 game. This guy has a track record for availability, and we all know Mike Tomlin's famous saying, the best ability is availability. And Bobby Wagner brings that. And on top of that, nothing is slowing down. In fact, things are getting better. The Steelers need a prominent inside linebacker, and even at 33 years old, Bobby Wagner brings that. Last season, he finished with 140 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 10 quarterback hits. He was a second-team All-Pro, had 6 sacks, 2 interceptions, 5 pass deflections, and you're going to tell me that this guy doesn't have it or is losing it? If anything, he got out of his contract in LA because he's worth more money, and he knows that he should go get more money from another team. And meanwhile, the Steelers, while they love to make their contracts a little bit backloaded and kind of hurt themselves later on instead of now, have the availability, they have the money, they have the capability to make this happen. And I'm going to explain to you how. The last contract that Bobby Wagner signed was in 2002 with the Los Angeles Rams for 5 years, $50 million. Since then, the market has obviously expanded. Myles Jack is set to make about 11 point some million dollars this season. He's clearly not as good as Bobby Wagner, and Bobby Wagner will definitely require a bit more money. But anybody who thought that they were going to get, and they as the Steelers were going to get Tremaine Edmunds, David Long, or any other splash inside linebacker signing for less than $10 million, you're not paying attention to the market. Myles Jack is expensive, yes, but the inside linebacker room is going to be expensive if you have quality guys in it. And it makes perfect sense for the Steelers to spend now on a guy like Bobby Wagner. Go get him for $12 million a year. Spend $23 million on your inside linebacker room. It doesn't feel good to do that, but you have the capabilities. All you do is you released William Jackson to clear a little bit over $12 million. You release Mitch Trubisky, clears $8 million. You now have 21, just about $22 million sitting in available cap space, and you haven't done anything that is unnecessary. You go out and you sign Bobby Wagner to $12 million. You still have $10 million in available cap space to go make other signings, and you don't need to make a splash signing that is that big. Cam Sutton is going to be about $8 million a season. That means you have $2 million left over, and you haven't touched anybody else. You haven't renegotiated contracts. You haven't changed contracts into signing bonuses. You haven't restructured a thing or released anybody else. The Steelers will be in a prime spot with minimal holes to fill, because that's the other important part. The Steelers' holes right now are inside linebacker, cornerback, safety, and defensive line. And then you could get into the offense. But chances are the Steelers do not view the offense with as much holes as we view the offense. They're probably more content at left tackle and left guard than we are. And if they could start off with Bobby Wagner signed, Cam Sutton signed, they have to go get a backup quarterback. They need to sign Terrell Edmonds, and they start with $2 million in available cap space. It's not a bad place to be. In fact, it's a great place to be. And then you talk about, oh, okay, well, why would you sign a 33-year-old to a short-term deal when the defense is already worth $1 billion and is aging? That makes sense too. The Steelers want to go young on defense. They want DeMarvin Leal and Isaiah Loudermilk to work out. They're hoping that they could go find another defensive lineman or two to add to the group. They want to go young at inside linebacker with Mark Robinson and likely a rookie. They want to find a star cornerback, and then they have a very young defense. But they can't do it all right now. And even if Mark Robinson impressed at the end of the season and a rookie is going to have some sort of playing time and some sort of role in 2023, neither of them are starters. But Bobby Wagner is. And what better gap, what better bridge player can you bring in than a future Hall of Famer and one of the best, if not the best, inside linebacker of his generation? The Steelers have had an inside linebacker problem for a while. It's been a long time, and I think it's the reason that Jerry O was chopped for Aaron Curry. The Steelers have been searching high and low for that Ryan Shazier replacement. It has been a long time since their inside linebacker room has felt dominant. But with Bobby Wagner and Miles Jack, and I think you could keep them both, you fill that hole and you now have two guys in the middle that you feel totally comfortable with, that you have no worries about, with two young guys learning behind them, and then maybe you add a special teams guy. But I think it removes the need to bring back Robert Spillane and improves the need to add a rookie and to develop those guys behind Miles Jack and Bobby Wagner. And I know money talks, and I know TJ Watt talks, and I know Cam Hayward talks, and I know Minkah Fitzpatrick talks, and I know Mike Tomlin talks, and I know all of these things sweeten the load so that you could send out a very promising deal to Bobby Wagner. But the secret weapon to this entire thing that I think is going to come in handy for the Pittsburgh Steelers and be a complete game changer in where Bobby Wagner ends up, and should immediately become a thought of why Bobby Wagner ends up in Pittsburgh with the Steelers, is their new inside linebacker coach, Aaron Curry, who coached in Seattle from 2019 until 2022, and Bobby Wagner was in Seattle from 2019 to 2021 and earned first team All-Pros twice in those years, a second team All-Pro the last year. Now, Aaron Curry was coaching the outside linebackers, but Bobby Wagner knows what this guy brings, and they definitely have a relationship. And it just feels like if he makes a couple of phone calls, and then Mike Tomlin makes a couple of phone calls, and then TJ Watt and Cam Hayward make a couple of phone calls, and Minkah Fitzpatrick tosses out an Instagram post or whatever you want to do, however you want to handle it, the Pittsburgh Steelers on paper look like a team with a young quarterback who showed how to win, a defense that was one of the top 10 defenses in football last season, one of the few coaches in football that you, no matter what, want to play for in the NFL. And I'm sure Bobby Wagner agrees with that one. And not one, not two, but three superstars already on this defense. The AFC North is essentially getting easier because Lamar Jackson, we don't know what's going on there. But you can't imagine it's going to end up good. It just all makes too much sense. Last year, it didn't make as much sense. Last year, Miles Jack made sense. Last year, the Steelers had a plan and you kind of wanted to follow that plan. This year, it's a totally different story. This year, it doesn't make sense at all for the Steelers not to chase Bobby Wagner. And if they are in win now mode, which they want to continue to preach, the Steelers want to keep putting it out there. We could win a Super Bowl now. Sometimes you got to shoot for the fences. Sometimes you got to take what everybody else is doing and realize, okay, a lot of these teams that end up in the Super Bowl are shooting big and they're landing stars. And if we're going to do the same thing, well, we got to do the same thing that they're doing in free agency and on the open market and in trades. And the Steelers aren't going to go make a bunch of splash. But Bobby Wagner is such an easy signing that makes so much sense and is capable to happen for the Steelers. And if they're serious about win now, they get that deal done.